There is a moment, standing at the base of Michigan Avenue, when the city seems to hold its breath. You look up, and still further up. The black steel tower above you does not merely rise, it announces itself, with great X-shaped braces crossing its flanks like the ribs of some enormous living thing. It dominates the skyline not through sheer bulk, but through character, through conviction. It is bold, it is severe, and it is, in every sense of the word, unforgettable. This is the John Hancock Center. 100 floors, 1,128 feet of steel, glass, and audacity, planted in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. And its story, like the city that built it, is one of tremendous daring, near disaster, and ultimate triumph. The late 1960s were a restless, electric time in American cities. The post-war economy had created an appetite for density, for commerce, for height. Chicago was growing, pushing outward and upward, asserting itself in the long-running architectural rivalry with New York. Real estate developer Jerry Wolman conceived the project in late 1964, a single tower that would defy conventional categories. Not merely an office building, not merely a residential tower. It would be both at once and more besides. Housing offices, condominiums, restaurants, shops, parking, and a public observatory, all stacked into one soaring vertical city above the lakefront. The John Hancock Mutual Life Insurance Company agreed to finance it. The great firm of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill would design it. And two extraordinary men whose names deserve to be spoken alongside the great builders of history, were given the challenge of making it real. Bruce Graham was the chief designer, a Peruvian-American architect of fierce intelligence and bold formal instincts. Fazlur Rahman Khan was the structural engineer, a Bangladeshi-American whose mind had quietly revolutionized the way tall buildings could be made to stand. Khan had grown up in Dhaka, earned advanced degrees in the United States, and brought to his work a mathematical clarity that bordered on the poetic. Together, Graham and Khan conceived something that had never quite been attempted at this scale. They called it the tubular system. Rather than relying solely on a central interior skeleton to carry the building's loads, they would make the entire exterior wall function as a structural tube. The outer skin would carry the weight. The outer skin would resist the wind. The building would, in a sense, hold itself up from the outside in. And to brace that tube against the enormous lateral forces that punish tall buildings, the relentless, indifferent pressure of Lake Michigan winds that can reach 60 miles an hour or more and press against a 100-story facade with staggering force. They made a decision that was as much aesthetic as it was structural. They would expose the engineering. Great diagonal X-braces, spanning multiple floors across the entire width of the facade, would stiffen the tube against racking and sway. These braces would not be hidden behind cladding or apologized for in ornamental disguise. They would be celebrated. They would become the building's identity. The result was a new architectural language, what historians would come to call structural expressionism, in which the logic of engineering and the beauty of form became one and the same thing. But before any of that elegance could be realized, the project nearly ended in catastrophe. In 1967, when the building had risen only 20 stories above grade, engineers discovered something deeply alarming. The soft glacial clay beneath Chicago, that ancient compressible soil deposited by retreating ice sheets thousands of years ago, was already settling under the tower's weight at a rate that their calculations had predicted would only occur once the full 99-story load was in place. The ground was behaving as though the building were already finished. It was not. It had barely begun. The innovative staged concrete pouring method being used had introduced variables that the soil models had not anticipated, and the consequences, if left unaddressed, could have been severe. Construction stopped. Weeks stretched into months. The financial pressure mounted with every idle day. Jerry Wolman's finances, strained beyond recovery, finally collapsed entirely. The John Hancock Mutual Life Insurance Company stepped in, taking over the project and absorbing the cost of solving what the engineers had to solve. Through painstaking recalculation and revised construction methodology, the foundation problem was overcome. The original design was preserved without compromise. Graham and Khan remained. The tower began once more to rise. On May 6, 1968, it topped out, becoming, for a brief and glorious moment, the second tallest building in the world, surpassed only by the Empire State Building in New York. It was the tallest structure in Chicago. Its 100 floors contained roughly 700 condominiums, which at the time represented the highest residences anywhere on the surface of the earth. The first resident to move in was Ray Hecla, the building's own engineer, the man responsible for the design of those very residential floors. He moved his family in April of 1969, before the building was even officially complete, carrying his children into the clouds above the magnificent mile and claiming his quiet place in the history of the place he had helped create. The numbers alone are worth pausing over. The Otis elevators serving the upper public floors travel at 1,800 feet per minute, fast enough to reach the 95th floor in roughly 38 seconds at full speed. They remain among the fastest in the Western Hemisphere. The 44th floor sky lobby, the transitional level where offices below give way to residences above, contains the highest indoor swimming pool in the United States, its double-height ceiling hovering more than 400 feet above the street. The observatory on the 94th floor sits over 1,000 feet above Michigan Avenue, offering unobstructed views across 4 states on a clear day, with visibility stretching beyond 80 miles. Including its twin antenna masts, extended and modified over the decades to serve Chicago's broadcast needs, the tower reaches 1,500 feet into the Illinois sky. The human drama did not end when the last steel was set. On Veterans Day, 1981, a high-rise safety advocate named Dan Goodwin strapped himself into a wetsuit and climbed the building's exterior walls, scaling the very exposed I-beams that Fazlur Khan had so deliberately placed there. His purpose was pointed and urgent, to demonstrate that firefighters had no means of rescuing people trapped in the upper floors of a super-tall building. The Chicago Fire Department, ordered by Fire Commissioner William Blair, attempted to stop Goodwin with fire hoses and fire axes driven through nearby windows. The scene playing out hundreds of feet above the street was extraordinary. It was Mayor Jane Byrne who finally intervened, allowing Goodwin to complete his climb, his argument made in the most visceral and undeniable terms imaginable. The building has endured much in its decades of life. Scaffold torn loose by 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts in 2002, crashing 43 stories to the street below. Fires. An elevator cable failure in 2018 that sent a car on a controlled descent from the 20th floor to the 11th. Terrifying to those inside, but ending without injury. An ownership history that reads like a financial thriller. Multiple sales, a default, a piecemeal carving up of the building's distinct assets in 2012 that saw the observatory sold to a Paris-based firm, the retail space sold separately, the antenna towers sold to a Boston affiliate for $70 million. And in September of 23, the quiet, painful closing of the Signature Room, the beloved 95th floor restaurant that had fed Chicagoans and their guests for 30 years, its owners citing the deep and lasting economic wounds of the pandemic. In 2018, the John Hancock Insurance Company, long since departed from the tower, formally requested that its name be removed. The building now carries its street address, 875 North Michigan Avenue. Few Chicagoans have accepted the change. To the city, it remains, simply and permanently, the Hancock. Yet the architecture endures, unchanged in its essential character. Those great X-braces still climb the black facade, as legible and powerful as the day Graham and Khan first drew them. The American Institute of Architects recognized the building with its 25-year award in '99. It was named one of Illinois's 200 great places during the state's 2018 bicentennial. And Fazlur Khan's tubular system, first fully proven here, above the shore of Lake Michigan, did not stop at one building. It became a template for super-tall construction around the world, enabling the Sears Tower, the World Trade Center, and generations of towers beyond. Without the Hancock, the entire trajectory of tall building design shifts. Without Fazlur Khan, the modern skyline, as we know it, does not exist. Chicago has always believed in ambition. It is believed that a city can rebuild after catastrophe, that engineers can solve what seems unsolvable, that a single tower rising from the edge of a great inland sea can say something true and permanent about the people who dared to build it. The John Hancock Center, whatever its address, whatever name the lawyers have given it, has said exactly that for more than half a century. If you found this history worth knowing, subscribe for more stories of human ambition in steel, stone, and concrete.